Tonight on Dice to Pixels, we're going to be talking about why everyone who's mad at Helldivers is an asshole. How's that for demonetized?
Can't be demonetized if you were never monetized.
That's right. Okay, that's probably a little bit extreme, but I think it's basically today. It might have been yesterday that it originally came out, but I think the tweet was even today.
Let me look.
If you're not familiar, Helldivers 2 is re-enabling the mandatory linking of PSN accounts.
It's May 3rd at 11:59 a.m.
So yeah, that was this morning.
Yes.
Yeah. We're filming on Friday, if you didn't already know that. People are up in arms. People are so pissed.
Yeah.
And so people who are like, I'm going to sue you, you can't change the terms. This was always required. We're talking about Steam, by the way, in case that wasn't obvious. Obviously, if you buy it on PlayStation, you already have a PSN account, so no harm, no foul. On the PC side on Steam, my understanding of what happened here, because I bought it when it first came out, I linked my PSN account. It was a step in the setup. But I guess they had some server issues where they disabled it temporarily. And so a bunch of people bought it and didn't link their account. There was a skip option. And now they're going to be forced to actually link it, which was always the fucking intention.
Mm-hmm.
And people are pissed for what I would say is no good reason. You had an interesting face there. Were you reading something interesting?
I am on the Steam page, and it says incorporates third-party DMR and protection game guard, requires third-party account PlayStation Network, requires agreement to a third-party EULA Helldivers 2.
Yeah, you bet it does.
Yep.
Which, I saw that. Everyone who bought it should see that. I'm like 80% sure that when I added it to my cart, Steam even came up, during the checkout, even made me click an extra box that was yes, I'm cool with this.
I feel like a lot of games that have third party, EA type games that have that third party agreement that you have to agree to, it does do that. And when you first boot up the game, it does that
definitely,
too.
Yeah. I am 100% sure that there was multiple opportunities for me to fully understand that what I was about to do linked my PSN account. So these people who are up in arms about it, it's listen, you're an asshole. Now, separately, there are people who aren't necessarily saying you're breaking the law and everything else. They're saying this is a bad move. I have a hard time arguing with that. I actually agree. I don't think that, given that it hasn't been mandatory apparently for a couple months now.
Yep.
I thought it was mandatory for everyone. Apparently not. Apparently a lot of people didn't have to do this. It hasn't seemed to be breaking the game.
Nope.
So at this point, I would tend to agree that it probably is a bad choice.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, I noticed some of it in the tweets thread with the actual tweet itself, and I'm again looking here on Steam at the reviews because it's being review bombed.
Oh, big time.
Which doesn't surprise me at all. That's why I went here. The number one post right now is from someone, Candy. This is their one review. Not linking PSN. PSN isn't even available in my country.
Yeah, so that actually is an interesting one. I did see some people saying the Philippines, they could buy it on Steam, but PSN isn't available.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the situation to truly comment. Seems like Steam shouldn't have sold them that game.
Yep.
On the other hand, I feel like that's a pretty bulletproof reason to get a refund. I'm pretty sure if that person goes to Steam and say hey, you sold me a game that I can't use because of the country I'm in, that's a situation where you probably could sue them if you so chose and win, because that is actually they should never have sold you that game. People in North America who agreed twice to buy this despite that it was, PSN linked, and are now oh, you broke the terms of service, we're going to sue you. It's they didn't. You didn't fucking read the terms of service.
Yeah.
So there's whether or not it's a good choice. and whether or not it's like legal, like people are getting all up in arms. It's like there's nothing untoward happening here.
A lot of things that I've seen too going through that tweet thread and on even on here on Steam is people are worried about the history of Sony cybersecurity.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Like there are valid reasons for people to be like, don't do this. It's stupid. Fair.
Yeah.
But don't do this. It's illegal, or like you're moving the goalposts on us or whatever. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're an idiot. But I have seen people saying like, for the love of God, Sony has been hacked like 80 times in the last week. Please don't do that. Fair. That's hard to argue with.
Yep.
So yeah, like I'm of two minds on it, because on the one hand, I actually agree it's kind of dumb, and I don't think that they should be PSN linked. On the other hand, I'm assuming they got a buttload of money from Sony to develop the game, and this was in the contract. So it doesn't really matter whether you want them to or not now. They're fucking gonna.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like there are people who are angry for the right reason, and there are a vastly larger number of people who are angry for the wrong reason.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of like when Wizards did the whole thing and people were, this isn't legal. This is like, yes, it is. It might be bad, but it's perfectly legal.
I feel like this, though, there is points that make a heck of a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would agree with any PC game. Like there's very little reason for any PC game to connect to.
Well, same with console, because there's console games that have to link with other third-party things too, which is stupid and annoying.
Yeah. The reason I thought that Helldivers had to link to the PSN was for crossplay. And in fairness, that may be the case. But at the same time, clearly they've been getting along fine without that for a while now. So it strikes me that from a technical perspective, there's no particular reason for this.
No. Like just with the reviews on Steam, there's 351,000 plus reviews. That's just for reviews. Can you imagine how many people actually have the game to play?
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of people say, and I didn't fact check this in any way, but I was seeing a lot of people say that the vast majority of players are on PC. Which frankly I could kind of believe, because it's like, unlike the original Helldivers, which was top down, this is a full 3D third person shooter, or first person shooter. Sorry. I had the option of PS or PC. I mean, I could have got a PS, and I wouldn't mind having a PlayStation. But I would never buy this for PlayStation ever. It's a first person shooter. It's a PC game, period.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel the same way as I do on that. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's true, that the majority play on PC, in which case it's possible that it really sucked for PlayStation users. Like they may never have been able to get into matches and stuff, in which case that would further explain why Sony would be putting the pressure on.
I was just going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Anyways, so like I said, I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I agree. I would rather not. I mean, I didn't care. I linked my PSN account. Whatever. Fine. Yeah. All things considered, I would rather they not do this. I would rather it was never required. But at the same time, you fucking agreed to it. You have no leg to stand on here. If you're bitchy because they weren't actively requiring it at the time, but you agreed to it, and now they're requiring it, you're being an asshole. So yeah. But we'll see what happens. I suspect not much, because I'm sure they're contractually bound. Even if they wanted to change their mind, I don't think they're able to. I'm pretty sure they're going to be.
And it's unlikely unless Sony's like, no, it's okay, but they're not going to do that.
It's not going to happen. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We don't care that we invested in this game. Not likely.
Yeah.
So then we actually had a couple things we were going to talk about, and I think we forgot one of them. So it might come up randomly while we're chatting, but you were talking about the length of gaming sessions.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it actually on my drive over today. Because
as she was playing chess, she was driving.
Playing chess, because I'm all about safety.
Yeah.
I was listening to a song from actually Control, their soundtrack, and it kind of put me back in that headspace again. And I was remembering how much I really enjoyed that game. And I think part of it, and I really enjoyed Alan Wake too, because it's one of the songs that ties the two together.
Right.
And I think part of what really got me like the game itself for both of them were enjoyable. But I think what helped me really, really like it is just the amount of time I spent playing them rather than just like a little bit of time here and there. It was like chunks of time. And then I thought about other games that I've played that way. And it's totally, those are the games I remember enjoying the most, or the ones that I've spent the most time in each gaming session.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, do you find the same yourself?
Yeah. So, so I think I've said on the podcast before, and I've definitely told you and Chad this on several occasions. For me, like my ideal vacation is just like either a resort or a cruise or something that's just all board games. And I know people are going to say like, there's D&D at sea and everything. Absolutely. Someday I might do that. The problem is getting people, like I want to do it with people that I know. I don't just want to go and like hook up with some randos to do it. So for me, like honestly, anytime a gaming session is less than like 4 or 5 hours, I'm like, oh, that wasn't very long. So like, absolutely. For me, the longer, the better. And part of it is playing one game for an extended period of time. Very much like to do that. And part of it is also just anytime, especially in a social setting. This is true of solo too. Like even if I'm just playing a video game, I get into it the longer I play it. Absolutely. But especially in a social setting, I find that most of like the distracting chatter, and not that this is a bad thing, but like hey, we're catching up, we're being social, we're friends, we're whatever. That stuff usually ruins the first game from a game perspective.
Yeah.
It's still fun. It's still a social, but it's more of a, we're hanging out than we're playing a game. But then by like the second game, people are actually like playing the game. And then by the third game, people are getting competitive about playing the game. And that's when the magic happens in terms of gaming. I mean, I'll play a game anytime. I like hanging out with people and I like playing games. But definitely the longer things go on. And I think that's true on an individual level too. You kind of have that same sort of like, oh, hello, old friend of a game that I'm playing. And then after a little while, it's like, cool, I'm like in the zone. And then by like the end of the first, like maybe hour and a half, you're like, fucking, I'm going to get this. It's going to be great. So yeah, I think I would be surprised to hear anyone say otherwise, except people that don't actually like gaming. And there are a lot of people that pretend to like gaming.
I don't understand that. Why do something you don't enjoy?
I don't get it.
I mean, yes, we have to work, but
oh, for sure. Like there's lots of people that are like, I only have a little bit of time to play.
Yeah.
And I get
I just meant like, yes, we have to work. So like why we don't enjoy doing that necessarily. Sure. But yeah, like even just having a little bit of time to play. But those people also, when they do get a larger amount of time,
they tend to play longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where, would you like to play games all day with your friends? Yeah, of course I would. But there are lots of people who are like, oh, maybe, and we can do some other stuff too. And it's like, okay, so you don't really like the game portion. You just want to hang out with friends. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then don't agree. Like, well, not don't agree, but like, don't say you want to do don't portray yourself as a gamer and then not play the game.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that goes on. I've fought with that through the years where you'll get a couple of people that are like, sure, I'd love to play D&D. And like, if they're the first time out, I get it. You got to find out if it's for you. But like, they'll keep coming out and playing and they'll be distracted the whole time and they'll be on their phone and everything else. It's like, you are not actually into this. So please fuck off and let the rest of us enjoy it. And that I don't get. I don't really understand why people pretend to like games.
Because
FOMO, I guess.
Probably. Yeah. It's essentially what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I find the same thing. The longer I read a book, the more invested in it I get. Because like I have a market coming up this coming Thursday on the 9th, and I need to make a buttload of socks. in that time. Well, buttload in like a 2-week span is like 6, which I'm probably
Sure.
not going to, whatever. But I've blasted through Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, 2 fantasy books in a series, really fast. And like I was super invested in those because I was focusing so like for hours at a time on these books while knitting. So
yeah, I find the same is true for audiobooks and even movies.
Yeah.
I'll every once in a while I'll do like a Marvel movie like marathon.
Yep.
And I'll like watch like all 3 Iron Mans, and they're not all particularly strong movies, but I find it's better. Like if I pick up one of the weaker Marvel movies on its own, I'll be like, eh. Yeah. But if I'm watching it as part of the whole, I'm like, yeah, no, this is great. It's part of the story. So yeah, I think it's just about getting into that frame of mind.
Yeah.
And then it sort of falls into place. Everything clicks, and you're like, yeah, fuck yeah. Never truer than with D&D, though. Holy shit.
100%.
Playing D&D for less than 3 hours is a joke. And once you hit the 4 and 5 hour mark, as long as you've got a gaming group that's like into it, the magic happens.
Oh, yes.
Like, and it's not even just like it starts to get good after that time. It's like if everybody knows that they've got the time to play a legitimate game, people don't feel rushed, and the story's better, and it's I'm breaking things, and it's just so much better.
Yep.
So much better.
So much better.
Which is why it should be illegal to play D&D for less than 4 hours at a time.
Why would you
Straight
want
to jail. Yeah, no, I mean, I've 3 hours is pretty common, and I've done a lot of 3 hours. And obviously back in the day when we streamed stuff, it was usually 3 hours.
Yeah.
That was more to do with audience, like focus than our focus. Cause of course we did 9 in many days, but
yes.
But yeah, I like 3 hours is the minimum I will typically do. If it's any less than that, I'll be like, no, let's do something else. It'll be better.
Yeah.
Like we can bust out a game of Lasers and Feelings in an hour and a half. That's fine. But
because that's a game that's not meant to be played for super
short.
long.
You're making a short story instead of a novel.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. Yeah, I know a few people who they're like, oh yeah, I like D&D, but I get tired after like an hour and a half. And I'm like, I don't think you like D&D.
Like the idea of D&D.
Yeah. I think you
need to find a different system.
Yeah, exactly. And there are lots. So like that's not a problem.
That's not difficult. You just have to find the people that are willing to do that too.
Actually, we should look into some of those, because one of the struggles. So there was a comment on one of the videos 2 weeks ago. Yeah, maybe. Yep. About are we going to do some TTRPG? And yeah, I mean the struggle has just been time. I mean we've been missing Chad for a few weeks too. Yeah. Like time has been a huge problem. So we would love to, and honestly, we should probably just try some of the nice short ones. And
Itch.io's got so many of those little guys.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll do that in the coming weeks. Because normally I shy away from those just because I'm like, no, I want some goddamn meat on the bone. But when time's an issue, you gotta compromise. So.
Actually, speaking of TTRPGs, my sister called me this week and she was telling me about her session 0 with her new group, and they're doing the Last of Us TTRPG called The Rest of Us. Yeah.
Interesting.
The characters that they have created, I told her that they should probably sit at their table with a box of tissues because everything that she has told me so far, like they're gonna bust up crying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear about it a little bit more. Yeah, because
she was saying when they were she was saying system. When they were creating their characters, there was nothing that they found in the system to calculate your AC.
I don't know much about the Last of Us system, but I feel like that's not a big piece of the because I think it's sort of like just don't fucking get into trouble.
Because that's why they all wanted to do it, because they're all role players more than anything. So yeah.
I think it's sort of one of those, like, if you get into a situation where your AC would matter, you're already fucked.
You got run away. Yeah.
Pretty sure that's how that works, but I could be wrong. I'm
actually curious to hear what other people have played for longer sessions of time, and found that it's really stuck with them.
Yeah.
Like board games, TTRPG, video games, anything like that. I genuinely find that stuff interesting. Just it's like recommendations, basically.
Yeah. Like, do you have a go-to like long game?
Mm-hmm.
Like Bard Song or Gloomhaven or Frosthaven or any of that sort of stuff that's like, or do you play Monopoly for 9 hours, which is, I think, the shortest Monopoly game you can have. I mean, for me right now, it's trains.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to segue into that too.
Yeah. I figured it was a good segue. So Saturday played trains in person, which is 1846 race for the Midwest. But actually, I'm going to pick up, it's one of the 18XX games. I forget which year it is, but it's the China game. JJ's has copies, as far as I know, and none of the group that plays trains has played it. So I'm going to pick it up, and the next time we get together, we're going to do that. But also, at playing trains in person was great, super well. I did actually better in person than I do online, partly because like you read people a lot better at the table. It's like you get some idea of what they're about to do. And also, you don't have a scoreboard at all times. So it's more of like, I think he might be pulling ahead. I better do a bold move versus like, no, I know I'm exactly $153 up on him. So I can chill for the round. So that was interesting. Different dynamic. Finally beat my brother at a game of trains. But the person who hosted, Matt, had a Wormwood modular gaming table.
Ooh.
Which, two things. I will say, A, the curly maple that they got for that table was very nice.
Yeah.
I strive to get that quality of curly maple when I'm working and stuff. And usually I can find it, but like it's actually pretty hard to get that. It was very curly. It was very nice. The table itself was exactly what I expected. It was reasonable construction.
Is that the smaller square one? Or?
Well, so the modular can go from smaller square. Technically, it can go from a coffee table, and then there's like different sizes all the way up to like a big wargaming table, which is like at least as big as our podcast table here, probably even a little bit longer. And then actually, I just happened to catch a Worm Life episode the other day because I was checking in on what they were doing. And Crazy Ed made their two of their longest tables with extra legs in the middle. So it was like a 26 foot.
Oh my God.
I was like, that's excessive. It was for their boardroom table. They needed a boardroom table. But so nice table. Quality. I mean, the quality was there. It's good. The rail system, obviously excellent and everything else. Still wouldn't pay for one because of the shipping and everything else. Yep. But he was describing the fact that even though the Kickstarter, I think there are still Kickstarters from the original table run because they opened it up again. It just opened up recently or it's about to or something for a second round of Kickstarter. But there's like a lot of people, especially in Canada, that still don't have their tables, even in the US. But apparently some of the earliest backers were Canadian. And in order to save themselves shipping price across the border, they ended up shipping a bunch of extra Canadian orders just to fill the trucks.
Oh.
So Matt ended up getting his like way earlier than he should have, just because it's like, well, we can either pay like $900 to ship a table and eat the cost, or we can ship a few orders out of band and get them there. So he got his way earlier than he should have. I think he got it somewhat recently, but still way earlier than he should have. And it's nice. The only reason I wouldn't get one is because I'm going to make one. And I think I'm finally going to find the time. I think I might take a week off work and just build one finally.
Nice.
I've said that before, but now I have an actual wood shop to do it in.
Yep.
And I hadn't when I was starting up the like Northern Mastery of the company, because I was like, well, if I'm going to spend a week woodworking, I really should build product. But now that I'm gainfully employed again, I'm like, no, maybe I'll like this summer, maybe I'll just take a week off and just build myself a gaming table.
Yep.
/ a podcast table, because it'll probably replace this.
But.
because why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can have the mic clipped into the side of the table instead of
fancy
drilled through the tables. Yeah. Yeah, our podcast setup. Actually, honestly, when I clear everything off and I put the tables all at the same level, it's not
It's
bad.
a good
but
space.
it's usually pretty clustered in here.
Well, there's a lot of electronics.
There's so many cables. So many cables.
And cameras.
And cameras. Yeah. And laptops and phones and batteries and everything. But yeah, I'm finally going to build one. But I'm going to make, my goal is to make it Wormwood compatible.
So you could get like their...
2 reasons. One, so that I can get their accessories if I want to.
Yeah.
And 2, so that if I make my own accessories, I can take them with me to Matt and potentially also gift them, because one of the things that we were doing when we were playing trains, a lot of people use poker chips for the game instead of like, because it comes with like Monopoly money, but that's a pain in the ass. So people tend to use poker chips instead because it's faster. But it's a pretty big game with a bunch of different moving parts, like card wise. So what we really needed was like a thing that could like plug into the rail on the inside to just elevate either our player area or the bank, either one.
Yeah.
And I was like, that seems like the sort of thing that I could whip up on the CNC in about 10 minutes. But obviously not during the game. So
No.
So but that's the sort of thing that I would whip up, like especially if I have a table of my own, I'd whip some up and make extras and take them over and all those things. So but yeah, it was a good table. I mean, I can confidently say that it was nice, and I would not be embarrassed to have that quality. It's not the it's generic furniture. Like, it is not heirloom furniture by any means. It looks like a very high class version of IKEA furniture. You can tell that it is not like proper glued construction, that it's assembled with like fasteners that release and everything. It has that sort of telltale gappiness to it, but it didn't look bad.
Yeah,
it looked good, and the wood quality was great. So
would you say the quality of it was definitely better than, well, I'm sure it is definitely better than that vault that you got?
Yeah, well, it certainly seemed to be, although in fairness, the level of imperfection on the vault versus a table, they would blend in a lot better on the table. Like, the problem with the vault that I ended up getting was, it was just, there were so many things that's like, this isn't quite right, and this doesn't quite fit, and the finish isn't quite right. But the finish on the table was actually beautiful. Like, I think that's because of the shop that they bought has like fantastic finishing. But like a little gappiness on the table would blend right in, because it's kind of gappy by design. None of it really like snugs up perfectly tight.
Yeah.
Because it's not meant to, right?
Yeah,
like, there's chamfers on everything, and it's just, that's not the way it's constructed. So I can't really say. It certainly, if there were imperfections, they blended in a hell of a lot better than they did with the vault.
That's good, at least.
So yeah, their table construction seemed great. I would not mind having one in the house. Even though my standards are pretty high for such things, I would happily have one as our dining table. I'm just not willing to pay that much money and shipping for something that I can absolutely build myself. Especially because the modular game table, and I've said this before, I'm a bit of a broken record on this. The modular game table is not that hard to build. Yeah. The Prophecy, that's a much harder table to build, and it's way cooler. But the modular game table, it's like, it's basically gluing up a bunch of stuff, routing some, drilling some holes, and then planing and sanding and finishing, which is like, that's the most basic level of construction. Everything I've ever built that's furniture required some amount of that. There's no like fancy mortise and tenoning or anything. So yeah, so I wouldn't pay for one, but it is a nice table.
Nice.
Yeah. Good. I would get it in walnut though, which is part of the problem, because
spendy walnut. Yep.
Big time.
Yep.
Yeah. But I guess we're at time.
Are we?
I rambled more than I thought on Wormwood stuff.
Apparently, we haven't bitched about Wormwood in a while, and this time was actually positive.
They haven't done anything super egregious. Well, they have. They've done some really stupid stuff, but nothing that crazy. So, except I'm sure a lot of people are pissed about them starting a second Kickstarter before the first one's full.
I saw that and I was like, oh my God, I thought they weren't doing that anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. So, but anyways, let us know what you think. Let us know if you've got a table. I think Richter had one on the way, but I don't know if he ever got his. So, Richter, if you're watching, let us know.
Yeah.
And let us know what long games you play. And hopefully next week, Chad will really, honestly, truly be back.
Yeah.
So, and Chad, if you're watching, we love you.
A little bit.
A little bit. Bye.
Bye.